Righty.
Okay, I'll start.
Well, good. Thank you. Well, welcome, folks. Great to always be here. And I should have said, as I came in, it's great to be here twice reasonably quickly. We always get a better sense of the place, so it's wonderful to be here. Thank you. And it's actually, to be honest, our first meeting of our normal quarterly cycle, as in contrast to the last week was over the draft long-term plan. So it's great to be here. Let's start with the apologies. Looks like we've got a good crowd. I've got no apologies. I sort of said we're going to go, obviously, the morning. Not too certain about whether everybody can hang around. Good. So we've got no apologies. We've got nobody at all suggested for public forum that I'm aware of. 28 Jan, which was indeed that, perhaps we could call it extraordinary. What do you call it?
No, it was ordinary.
Wayne, was just ordinary.
Yeah.
28th of January, earlier on. I'll move from the chair there. Okay. Do we have a second? Thank you, Tamar. Any discussion on the motion? No? Great. Well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? It's carried. We've got the agenda in front of us. Is there any matter perhaps you note for interests for?
I didn't get enough data one from here.
Do I owe one?
Yeah, to the Smithsonian Cross City Council.
Oh, will you?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Oh, that's terrible. I'm sorry that I haven't done that.
Darren told me this morning.
Oh, okay.
And one I sent you through.
I did, yeah.
You said it was Christchurch City already.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. All right. Oh, you're ready by interest, so yeah, okay. I'll get worried. No, I can assure you, in fact, it was one of my meetings this week as well. So, so there we go. No, it's still on Christchurch. Sorry about that. Okay. So look, we're into the substantive reports, and the first up is the policy and strategy register.
Hello.
Welcome to the meeting. Well done. Your timing is impeccable.
Thank you. I was right next to it, but then you missed you. The policy and strategy register, hopefully quite a quick update. You can see we're up to 91.67% compliance there now, which is really good. All departments except planning and infrastructure are about 90%, and planning and infrastructure has a pathway to get there. And Three Waters is being calculated at 100 based on the amended schedule from last year. I do need to make a few changes to how we present that, just to show the sort of lateral policy and things like that we're working on, but otherwise it's looking good. There was a tiny error in there that the fixed asset management and disposal policy, which is one of your policies, isn't due this January like was listed, it's next January. So
Yeah, it's one of my question actually.
It's June 26th.
yeah, June 26th, and that one which is found after I published the report, that actually brings us up to 93% and brings planning and infrastructure up to 73%. And our length of expiry is still going up. That's at 3,973 days, but more than half of that is expected to come off by June. So it looks like we're really on track there. And an update, particularly for Tracy, but for all of you, that roading is now due by June.
There's one and one other question.
Originally, QP was going to bring me for this meeting, the chance that would be done by June, but he's back to thinking he can have the whole thing tackled by then, and will update us if that changes.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. The questions. Well done for knowing the two that might come your way, but are there any other questions that we would have? Tracy?
Just, can you please remind me, you've probably told us before, just that why we do the cumulative number of everything.
Because we are looking to see if policies are falling out of date and staying out of date. And when I first did the cumulative number, it was in the 10,000s. So just keeping a track of some of those longer ones that we've been slowly over the past year or so knocking off, particularly in the library space. I think we had 5,000 days on a policy and things like that. So by cumulatively counting them, we're looking at if things are expiring short term and coming back into place, we'd have a couple of hundred, but that's sitting at 4,000 is still showing things are going out of date for at least a year basis, which is showing pressure.
So on that basis, what would be, in your opinion, other than 100%, which would be fantastic, but let's be reasonable. Do you think would be a reasonable amount
the target I'm working to is 1,000. And I think, once we have those 4 in planning and construction, we'll be at 2,000. So we should be over a year or two working our way back there.
Thank you. Tracy, any other questions? Yes, Dana.
Financial reserves policy, I just couldn't see a timeline for that.
Are you all of that on Saskia?
Page 12.
No, Paul, I don't know if that one's on our radar. Apologies, committee. We will get it on our radar and have a look at that.
Perfect. It was down due for review in June last year,
Last year,
and usually you would have a process that began or
yeah.
an estimated timeline, so it'd just be good to know. Just on your list of many, many things.
We can sort of talk a little bit about that. The financial reserves will need to be completely revamped considering how we are districtised in rates and how we use ward-based rates that are in existence right now for expenditure on potentially what would be classified as district projects. So how that might work and where those funds, so that will all be rolled into that, and the plan for that is to bring that to council at the next meeting after.
So that would potentially be an entire rewrite as opposed to just an update.
Yes, I think so.
Paul, I had marked down the financial reserves one as well, for a slightly different reason. But it does relate, and I'm trying to necessarily open up the conversation we had in the half hour prior. The financial reserves is always an area that can be understood or misunderstood. And I'm just wanting to indicate that even potentially as committee chair, I would be keen if there was any interview by which we could understand what this committee, how you are going to manage financial reserves. I don't want to over-egg it, but if we look at our strategic risk of sustainability and financial management, how we deal with our reserves, A, needs to be understood, but B, actually how it fits within the overall financial strategy.
I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that because I'm a little bit like Julie.
I got my hands in front of my mouth.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, buddy. Look, all I'm wanting to say is that I think, council's prerogative around financial reserves. My concern though is actually they can be understood and they can be misunderstood.
Yes.
In other words, how financial reserves fit within the structure of local government is up for much debate around this country. And I think it would be useful if we could see that policy when council's done its thing brought back to us, not for approval, but so that we could graft it into our understanding about how we're managing financial risk. Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I'm just actually, I've got the old one open. It does, as Paul said, the complete rewrite. It's very high level and we probably want more direction within that. So apologies committee again that we didn't have it on our radar. But we do now.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's great to have the register. We actually asked hopefully some good. Any other questions there, Hannah or anybody else? Okay, so financial reserves. Then I jumped down to this is terrible. Actually, I can't quite remember. Did we deal with the risk management policy and process in October 24? We got an outstanding risk management policy and process.
It's been up and it's been to council.
It went to December and went to council in January.
That's what I thought. This looks like it's outstanding. Am I misreading the table?
I possibly not updated the table properly, didn't have a look. I checked the agenda for it, but did I notice it in here?
Page,
No, I just haven't translated it over.
oh, okay. Phew. That's what I was.
That's operational again.
Well, I assume this was accurate. So I was thinking, man, without going back, page 18, anyway, that's on it. So no drama. Look, and you've raised the fact that fixed asset management and disposal policy is outstanding, which I get. Julie, I think I asked this question last time, but I just want to ask because it comes up under our next item, which is the mandated documents, whatever it is we call that. The water services plans, which are
So
Sort of impending, I think is the correct, is the word that we use in this document.
talking about the water service delivery plan,
No, the water
the-
service, the water safety
Yeah.
plans, the WSPs.
we thought we would do them, so we have them, and then we thought we would review them on a 3-year cycle. What Tamara RY have said is they want them done every year, and so there's about 9 of them. So it's actually
Yeah.
starts to become quite a big resource. And so we are working through them nowadays, and it's just gonna be a constant thing for us. So they're almost always gonna be in the pending. Well, they're pending at the moment because they've got to be done this year, and we will get into it. But there's quite a rewrite this year.
I mean, I understand your point, Julie. I think my concern is to ROI as the regulator. So do they consider us compliant or not
Oh,
compliant?
so we've got water safety plans. They, we've had quite a lot of conversations with them around this.
Imagine.
Yeah, and so they have some legislative bullet points that they ordered against as a regulator, but they didn't really give any clear guidance on what they wanted to have in water safety plans. They kind of said, do it one way, which we did, and we were consulted to do it, and then they said, oh, they don't like this and they don't like that, and it's like, well, it would have been really helpful giving us a clearer outline of getting a template or something like that. So we are just changing the wording. What it came down to is sometimes people write too much that have been needed to have written less. So an example would be at Cromwell, we've said the board depth is 27 metres. However, we haven't physically remeasured this. And so because we put in that, however, they then interpret that as being a risk that doesn't tie into the risk register. So we're going through just being way more concise around what, lies into risk because it's irrelevant actually.
So is only part-time understanding water.
Yeah.
Let me ask last question a different way now. With this pending status, are we at any risk in terms of any event and if the regulator comes and looks?
We're always at risk that there could be something that we haven't identified. And an example would be, we've had 2 in the last few weeks. One was the fire in Roxburgh, where we were in, I was on the phone with the fire chief saying, we've got a problem here because you're not going to have any water running through these pipes in a couple of hours. We hadn't identified that as a risk. So I don't think that the current one's going to create necessarily an issue, but there could be risks that we haven't identified. We didn't think of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
It's, we keep a good relationship with Tamara RMI, so we talk to them about what we're doing, the timing of what we're doing, how we're proposing to address anything that they've raised with us. I think if we weren't doing that, then we would be at risk.
Okay. Well, perhaps you might get the same question from me, why do they still remain pending? If only because, I hate to say it because it's a couple of regimes back, but even if you go back to Headlock North, the actions that signed off, the equivalent of the water safety plans was a highly critical point of the total non-structure around the water hastings. So I have a special concern about the fact that we are sitting with an external regulator who may take a different view if we had an event of any sort of substance.
To be honest, I would say most councils are in the same situation as us. Certainly, rural councils that have large numbers of supplies. If you're a big city and you only have a couple,
That's right.
lots of staff, you're going to be way better off.
There you go. Okay.
On the water, Julie, there's I'm not sure whether this is something from your end, Alex, or not, but there's some policies that say they're out of date, but we haven't actually met the date yet. Like we're not there yet, so I'm just a little.
The amended schedule that we made last year,
Okay.
but they're showing us out of date because we should have already had them, and on the new schedule we have them on that date. Whereas the others, when they lapse, we've got them as out of date. But if they have an old date and they say pending, they're on the amended schedule.
The reality is there was a whole lot of things that we just didn't do because we were moving into a new water entity and there was legislation that wrapped around all this that was replacing a lot of the policies and bylaws that we had. And so that would have been a waste of effort of our resources. Now that we're not moving into the new entity, we're having to do all this. There's actually in the legislation that's currently before Parliament, there's still, there's a whole lot more of these things that are on this list as well that are going to come.
So we're going to have more.
More of them, yeah.
Because that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Have we got too many policies? But clearly now you've just answered that question.
Well, but this is the tie-in with actually the next paper.
Yeah.
All these are mandated, so and water service plans in particular,
Yeah.
sorry, water safety plans, etc.
Well, wastewater safety, wastewater management plans are going to be mandated. We're also mandated to put some bylaws in around development standards and things like that as well. So there's going to be more going on the list, unfortunately.
Into the wider point, I sort of see policies as a bit of an evolution. We didn't have a lot of them, particularly when I first started 4 years ago, we were still catching up. And then as we caught up, with becoming issue specific. And then the piece of work after that is to say which ones can be lumped together to streamline this more. That's sort of where we're at, is we've got a really long list. And as we move into the future, it'll be simplified. Hopefully.
Julie, can I ask one more question, please? And it's the accountant in me. Want to know whether I'm either paying or getting the money that I should have. It's the sewer lateral policy.
Yeah.
I only know enough, but not enough, that the definition of laterals and who owns them, who pays for the work on them is really important.
Yes.
If this is outstanding, do we have a problem?
Well, we are just going on what we've always done, which is our responsibilities up to the boundary line. If it's inside your property, it's your responsibility. If you get your plumber out and he starts digging away and finds the blockage is actually on the other side of the boundary line, then we pay that cost.
So what I'm trying to, so this is a case where you've got an existing policy, it's working okay. We just haven't taken it off the shelf, brush it up and put the current
Put a
paper.
new date back on it. So someone just needs to sit down, have a revisit.
Right. And this is not, this is not an area of fundamental rethink where liability could change.
No, the only thing would be, when we look at these, we will look at the full councils that we're talking to around CCOs to see how consistent we are.
Right. Okay, good. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just have a supplementary to that,
Yeah.
Julie? And I think Julie will be aware of this, just with the change after PC19 and the changing nature of how land could be developed going forward. Is there any risk potentially that you can see that there could be confusion from if people were going to develop their land in a different way, smaller lots with unit titles, so to speak?
No, but what we do have to do, and I only picked it up the other day, is in that water services, the next, those three that's up at the moment, these are by law requirement in here, and so we'll probably actually prioritise that quite highly and try to get that through before July around what the standards are. So legally we're required to do certain things, but we have to implement it via a bylaw, which seems a bit of madness to me. I don't know why they couldn't have streamlined that in the legislation, but I'm sure there's some legal reason why. And so we had to define some things, but we have to define them the way they tell us that they'll be defined. We don't get a lot of say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's well, we're starting to put a bit of effort into this report. Thank you. I remember when my first meeting, I struck this. I thought, wow, sort of, it's good. It's starting to give us reasonable conversation around some things that really matter around it. So I'm taking it to the stage now. There are no other points or questions, folks. So if we could go to the resolution, which is very quickly, which is that we've received the report, which is great. Thank you. I'll move in a second. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. And I'll say, thank you, Tamar. I'll put the motion on the paper. Please say aye. Those against this carry. Thank you. Righty. I'll take it. Oh, who now here? The mandatory documents register. Wow, we're having a group. Yeah.
Documents had previously been in legislative compliance. But this year we called it mandatory documents because really that's the area we could give the most confidence in. And when we move outside of that, we're moving to things like the compliance and orders of maximum acceptable values, which is reported on separately to you already. We've just narrowed that scope down to the mandatory documents or legislation and regulations that we're subject to and documents we must produce under those. That doesn't include, like I said, with the example purely or obligations under general law, like how we administer GST, but it contains all of the documents that Taituara, as our local government professional, have come up with, as well as the ones we did previously, which matched, thankfully. And then we previously popped them all onto its own register. And this time around, instead, we fed them into the quarterly risk review process. So I have Amelia here to talk through that. There weren't a huge amount of gaps. That's because we didn't have a huge amount of legislation we hadn't previously assessed ourselves against. I can't find a clear process that's reflecting that we're undertaking the 17A reviews. So that is probably the most significant one and the one that we've started to work through. Having class 4 gambling and the board venue policy out of date, we're still technically legally compliant and we're within the statutory timeframes for lateness. We also have a few provisions within our policy, but I don't like technical compliance as much as obviously compliant, so they're listed there. And then the key pieces of legislative change we're watching at the moment are obviously all the work in water services with Julie's team, obviously the work to the Resource Management Act. And when you see in that long list of legislation that we're updated them all, they're almost all changes because of the RNAs. That is the biggest moving piece at the moment. There were changes to the Health and Safety at Work Act last year that looked at committee membership. That was picked up immediately by People and Culture and worked through. Changes to the Employment Relations Act that again was picked up immediately by People and Culture and worked through. And there were supposed to be changes to the earthquake-prone building deadlines by December last year. There will be, but they're not there yet, and that's been worked through by the building committee. Other than that, apologies for the number of tables and spreadsheets.
Well, you've done well. You already anticipated one of my questions, which is really good. So it is a lot to work through. Just for if I could ask an overarching question to start before I open it up. I was interested about, mainly because I'm lazy, and I just wanted to get an overview. So I looked at page 32 to 33, which I think is your summary of the acts that in effect we have to comply with or indeed have mandatory processes or documents in place for, correct? Rightio. So that's really just meant to be a summary of what follows. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's fine. It is a summary. I was just being a bit picky when I got to building consent authority. It said accredited, but when I went to the table, of course, there's a lot more that indeed our building control authority has to comply with than just being accredited, albeit accredited, I guess, is the top of the pile. So
Yeah,
I get that.
I could pull it up to say you're reading 90 pages if you.
Yeah, I got you. No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. So when I then go to the table and particularly your status, the right-hand column, it sounds terrible. The report says that, and look, this was one that I just picked up for what it was worth, but it's an example. No, I'm not fixated on it. It's page 66, and hello, it's earthquake-prone buildings. Our response is managed by a team of subject matter experts.
Yes.
So my real question, I guess, is I'm always interested that we have a process in place, but at this point, I'm also interested to know, and are we complying, and do we know these people are right? You know what I mean? Now, that's not having a crack start. What I'm trying to say is I've got a simple statement here. It's managed by a team of subject matter experts, but is it managed in a way that we have no risk? Well, not no risk, but you know what I mean, that it's comfortably covered.
It's really a shortcoming of this report, and what we hope to get out of it is these conversations, we pick up these areas to do those deep dives into and bring you more reporting. So any of them, particularly that one, we'll take away now and have a look into. But a lot of this process involves me showing up to the subject matter expert and asking them what they do, and then having very quickly give me an overview of what they're doing. But that paper trail and those processes, and like Julie mentioned, was talking like ROI on that list. That's that next level of detail we can't get. We don't have a very clear tool anyway to get and apply against. But that is the ideal future state for sure.
Well, that's interesting. Look, I just want to, the committee meeting just want to just reflect for us that I wonder actually you might have been ready to do it, Tamar, in your role, or it was when Tim was still there. But for instance, that with the annual report, we as a committee have to recommend to council that we've complied with the law. And that's why I asked my question, how do we have confidence that actually it is being managed appropriately? Have we complied rather than actually, well, we've got people or something in place? That really becomes critical. That's why I'll be very keen to keep the conversation going with Alex about actually how we're taking it forward.
Also in the health, safety and wellbeing area that's in there in previous years, we've really tried to give that level of detail to the extent that Luke had to get an external auditor in to go through all of the acts and tell us this is the list we're supposed to follow. We're still in the process of working that through. We could probably repeat that for every legislative instrument to varying degrees.
Yes, which means we've got to then probably do it on a risk basis. So I don't have any trouble with health and safety. Okay, I've asked him any questions. I've got one more to go, but any questions from you guys? It's all right. It was a bit of a perhaps I my fella here. We looked at this. Tell me about section 17A. That was the one that I looked at for wait a sec. Let's just back the truck up on this one.
You know what section 17 overview that?
I know what they are.
Well, I have been unable to find the evidence or a clear trail that says 17A review was completed yet, and this is what we show.
Yeah.
We are in contracts, so we are not economically necessary, but the best example of a 17A review I can remember from Auckland is how the body of the adapts cleared up at Western Springs Reserve. Depending where they die, could be up to 3 contractors, and we just can't show that. However, we're also not in the situation of Auckland of having multiple contractors going to one reserve. So we've popped it onto the risk review to work through the ready update.
Right.
That's exactly what the evidence will be.
Look, that would be really good. And I didn't like 17A when it was board, and it seemed like it was telling us how to do good work. But I want to defend it a wee bit in light of some of the discussions informal we've been having, or in fact we had with Amelia, and we will have today around the risk of the financial sustainability risk. 17A really is saying we've got to stand back and look at, are we doing things in the most effective and efficient way? So while I sort of didn't like the way they imposed the act, Peter, that section, I am really interested. Do we use, well, because 17A asks us to do it, are we taking the opportunity to stand back and effectively meet the requirements of 17A as it's designed to do, go through things and check for efficiency and effectiveness? So Alex, I'd be very keen if you're able to come back at the next quarterly meeting and tell us a bit more.
I would love to.
Okay, great. It may be sort of a bit cloudy for my committee, but I suspect I'll be very interested once you can bring back a wee bit more information around 17A and understand. So I'm not saying Peter, everybody has to drop horses and do 17A reviews, but they are part of the toolkit that actually would be good for governments to know is being implemented, because it will be an important part of us understanding at a governance level around the efficiency and effectiveness either of our contract relationships or actually how we do our business.
We did discuss them in the reports that went to council for procurement at the team maintenance contract. And I think there's a full voting.
Yeah.
So
And even if we haven't done a 17A review, we probably do it naturally, and I'm sure you've done it naturally over those contracts. But it might be useful to use this, Julie, as just a bit of a trigger to make certain that there is a level of compliance with the law. I should be careful saying, well, I mean, we must apply with the law. But we want to make it so it's useful for us, not just because we need to comply. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. I'll see you again. Great report on lots of pages. I'm really going through my agenda really fast now that I've got rid of this. Well, I will get rid of this one. I'm going to say I'll move that we receive the report. Second, please. Thank you, Tracy. I'll put the motion all over the page. Please say aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Hey, that's wonderful. Appreciate that. Two really good papers sort of stimulated our discussion already this morning, so I appreciate that. So we can move now to health and safety, which we've already referred to in the last one. That would be great too, please. Welcome, you guys.
I just like to introduce Anita and do half of the advisor, some of you may have been and some of you may not. So Anita's been my housekeeping for about the last 3 months. She's been going through the induction process and getting to know our organisation and our health and safety program. So I will hand over to you. Thank you.
Welcome, Anita.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. So I take it that the report has been really quite start stepping through some of the main things for the past couple of months. So this period we did focus on leading up to Christmas. We unfortunately had a couple of incidents that occurred, one being the camper van failing to place their handbrake on going over the riverbank behind the warehouse in Alexandra, and the other being a safety violation outside the Commonwealth Hall where thankfully a 12-year-old boy had a family safely and he was approached by a older lady to have a ride home. She was understand work, so which was really, really good. Really hard for that. So they were our main ones. We have been focusing on trialling a couple of satellite solution devices currently. So they are out with some attendings at the moment, which is great. So it's good to have on that. And we have also had the additional blue lights installed following the security review last year. So we've had an additional 2 blue lights with sirens installed into Alexandra Service Centre, as well as the implementation of a camp in the water chambers as well for any public meetings. So still working through some fine detail about that as well, which is great.
Sure, that was interesting. There's a panic button in here, is it?
There is.
That was news to us, so yeah, you could point it out, that'd be great.
I think that's installed and from the security view, we literally start coming up with station and training for that.
Don't touch it.
I'm about to template and say that the audit risk committees don't normally attract anything that gives rise to it. So I needed to worry about the procedure, but I was intrigued that in fact we had a date. Well, I have public come to something like that, we'll wait and see. Okay. Anita, thank you for that. Sorry, was anything else you wanted to say? Was anything around the EAP stuff? Because you've got quite a bunch there of good stuff that you're doing. Was anything that you wanted to, not EAP, but the wellbeing side, was anything that you wanted to draw to our attention?
Things moving around, planning for initiatives for this coming year, which is great. To sort of engage with ones at the moment. So, with that, sort of had a good month last month with a couple of things, and the metaphor spirit is taking along as well, which we did some things, and neurodiversity is coming up, so a range of different things, which is great for the team.
And what I needed did about a month ago, we had a meeting around wellbeing initiatives and looking through the calendar, and also looking at some of the things that come out of ELP, whether those stressful factors, and seeing if we can align some of our initiatives around what is most stressful for our team. So we're still in the process of that. So there are the national initiatives that happen, but we've got some internal ones that we're having a look at going through the organisation this year as well. I think it's quite important to align with what our team are finding stressful. Yeah.
Thanks for this. Yeah.
And the committee's been doing really well with that.
Great. Questions, folk, for Nigger or Lewis? Yes,
I
Tammy.
just have a comment in that the menopause meeting, I think, was attended by every female who works here and David, which was very well received by David's wife. So thank you, it is great to see initiatives like that coming through.
I lived it, so I didn't feel the need to.
You could come.
I think we'll stop the conversation here. Other than, look, I would really like to say, what the reason I said do you want to do anything? I look at what the council do around the place. in the broader well-being area, and I was impressed. It wasn't just the menopause or perimenopause or whatever it was, the groups that you had, but actually your total program. So well done. I really think this seems to me more constructive than some of the other ones I see elsewhere. So Central Otago, take an uptick on that one, Tamer.
I've got one more with
Go for it.
policy. I'm really pleased to see those Garmin trial devices for the lone workers in place. That is awesome. And I just wanted to check the panic alarms, and I feel like it's been in there somewhere before. Are they going straight to the 111 system or to the police station directly?
They get monitored by Clear Security,
Okay.
so if we were to activate the panic, it goes straight through to the blue light.
And then they will organise whatever the response is. That's great, because we did used to have one that went straight to the police station, which was great if there was someone there. Not from council, from another organisation. Not so great if you're panicking and there's no one else. So please, there's another step in the process.
And from that security review, Tamara, we're looking at the process as well, because some people have been kicked up, what's doing repair, going. And then we've also got some concerns that come through as we did the review from our service team, and so we just had a full look at it and made some changes along there as well.
And I have all the fire warnings aware for all these zones with the panic button change as well. So documentation is coming down. I spoke to the main ones that are in public meetings. So.
Take any other questions?
I was just going to say ditto on the Garmin. That's awesome because I mean, whether they were in strike from other people, but if they had a breakdown or something, we've got a lot of areas that we don't have coverage. So it's awesome.
Nita, I always, as a chair, try and look through things like the lead indicator dashboard, which on the basis that, as I've been trained, leading indicators are as important as the lag because it says we're getting ourselves prepared. Can you just talk me through, because I mean, obviously it is to be scheduled. How do we undertake critical risk observations and who does?
So normally that's with the executive leadership team, and we come up with the observation, whether it be looking at the customer service and the risk associated with that previously, going out to the water treatment, in the lights and just picking an area to focus on. So I'm just looking at scheduling that for the first half of this year with the team and what we're going to look at. So
Brilliant. Oh, that's superb. That's what I was hoping was going to be the answer. And the critical thing was ELT. It's the way you said it is involved in this, because I think that's A, important for the tone, and B, I think actually statutory is probably right as well. So that's tremendous. Do councillors participate at all?
not the way that they have today, but the sooner ones on there.
Yeah, I can add, previous mayor and I did, when we were down in the half mile, we did a critical station up there together. Yeah.
Look, somewhere perhaps at another meeting, I'd love to talk about the obligations of officers under section 44(4) of the Act, which is actually in effect the responsibility of governance that there are systems, processes and resources in place. But the last step is always that governance is gains assurance that those systems, processes and steps are in place. One of the ways is potentially to accompany you and ELT on some of these tours. So I'm not saying it has to happen, but I just would like to reflect potentially that there is a bit of a statutory tick here if you do that. See, we've already talked about statutory compliance this morning, so scared. It may be valuable for councillors to have the chance to do something briefly with you guys, which would be great. Okay, any other questions for the team, you guys? We're good? Okay, let's go to the recommendation, which is that we received the report. Mover and a seconder. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Tamer. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you, Anita. Lovely to meet you and look forward to more of your work.
Presentation that we
Oh, sorry, did I miss a beat here, did I?
From the last audit risk meeting, there was a question around our strategy and our health and safety management framework. And we just wanted to, we will make this really quick, but we just wanted to give you a little bit of
Great. Love it. Yes, thank you.
what we actually do. So, do you want to leave that? Yeah, okay, so, what we've done in the health safety and wellbeing, arena is we've created a strategy that's built around leadership, engagement and, risk management. So it's incorporating all those, points that we need to get within our, strategy. And, the positive about having the strategy is that it's given us a steer with the health safety and wellbeing committee. And we're able to work towards like, you know, processes that lead us to strategic goals. What it's done with the committee is that, you know, when we talk about engagement and talk about understanding the committee, we've started to look at their job descriptions. I think I touched on that point in our last report in this meeting. And of course they have training. But what it's led us to do is well to give them that sense of safety around health, safety and wellbeing and engagement in that process. So I think I referred to it in our last meeting, sometimes it can be a little bit of a big factor around health, safety and wellbeing. It's like it's the unknown how you might get into trouble. So it's about giving the committee that confidence. So basically we've got a goal within our strategy. We're training them and we're trying to get them engaged and not fearful and health, safety and wellbeing. And the strategy is really helping out with that. It also aligns to our overall people and culture strategy, which includes one of those pillars in people and culture is enhancing employee health, safety and wellbeing organisations. They both align. Next slide, Wayne. And then our focus for 2025. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of our focus and what we're working towards. Of course, the strategy which you just taken me through, the wellbeing delivery that was in the report, staff engagement. So obviously in the report comes through what comes from EAP, and it also gives us a bit of an indicator on how our team are feeling, and through staff engagement pulse surveys, which is what we're doing now. We are having rises in year on year in our engagement, and the last one was sitting at around 85% for our staff engagement. So we are impressed, but we've still got some areas that we need to work on. And then giving the committee the understanding of what their role is and training them and empowering them to go out and the wider organisation and influence and direct through their roles as committee groups. And then last slide.
This one has been discussed as well. So the health, safety and wellbeing management system framework. This has been drafted and is within the document. We are covering all sort of people, training, monitoring, risk operations and the like. We are currently working within the framework, and we have collated a lot of it within here just to support this as well as we move forward. So our main part of our phases of our management cycle was plan, do, check and act, and focusing on that through so it's okay.
And by creating the framework, what would work within our framework and legislative budget, the management system that we've built, framework will help enhance what we're doing and probably easy to be able to communicate with the committee on wider organisation on where our things go.
Brilliant. Well, they actually anticipated my question. That was well done. Thank you. And I'm sorry if I missed the fact that you had a presentation. So do you have any more questions for the team? That is tremendous. I'd love to, I think it is, and I'm open to discussion on this, Louise. It'd be useful to understand a bit more about your, the individual steps your strategy is requiring of you.
Yep.
And it's not for me to necessarily have the policy say on that, but to support you and the team as a committee to see that strategy through. So perhaps I wonder if next time you might just flesh that out for us a wee bit more, and we just think through. You've got resourcing, risks are managed. In other words, the project will go ahead, and you'll be able to implement the strategy okay.
And I was really, just, you know, when we have going to the increase, it's like, there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
But we do have the kids who are behind each. I can explain it.
I'd be happy if we as a committee devoted a wee bit of time just to understand that a little bit. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rightio, the treasury report, is that you, Paul, Oh, it's
Myself, I'm prepared to delivering this morning, but Paul can definitely chip in if there's any further questions. So this is a pretty straightforward report. Probably just a couple to note, while as of 31 December, our debt levels were sitting at 40 million, we are increasing our debt at approximately 5 million per month roughly, so we're currently at 50 million. So obviously we've picked up in our capital programs. This has been primarily driven by the Cromwell. So it was anticipated. And Paul and I met with Miles O'Connor, and as we increase our debt, it is very likely we'll be at risk of not being policy compliant. And of course, we've got the swaps mechanism to manage that. So Miles has given us a heads up that we'll need to start thinking about that soon. So we'll work with Miles to ensure that we've got the the best treasury package to for this organisation. And probably the only other thing I'd like to say is cost of funds are now sitting at 4.92%, and members that were here at the time that we started doing these reports would recall that it was closer to 6% when we first started these reports. So I'll take any questions from members.
yes, I guess the last ball question is how quickly that 4.92 will come down.
Yeah.
With a feeling that probably they should stay a wee bit more stubborn. We would hope for going forward.
And that definitely, even though we are anticipating a cut, the report does indicate we're not going to have a big drop in interest rates, that it's going to be, as you say, relatively foreseeable.
I guess every 0.5% is significant.
Yeah.
When you've got a significant amount of borrowing, so everything that comes down is good.
I mean, we've got 9, we've got 10, let's say the thinking of 10 in term deposits and cash. Are we able to delay taking on debt while we wait for the rates to come down and use that cash?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, that's a very good point. What we're doing that very thing this month.
Yeah.
In that I think the OCR is reviewed on the 19th, and we've got one that rolls over on the 20th.
Yeah.
So we're going to repay that debt, lock in, make sure that the rates track down where they should, and then re-borrow at the lower rate. So we're not automatically rolling over and risking locking in at a higher rate.
Thank you. Good. I knew you'd be doing that, Paul, but I'm just trying to say, I think I understand this, but anyway, yeah, that's good. Can I take the point that you're saying that actually the critical thing actually, given 4.12 attracts the eye, is going to be being managing our interest rate risk, which is okay at the moment, because previously I think it's important to note we had been out of our limits, but we're now in limit. But as you're saying, Miles, indicating with the increase in debt, we're going to yet again have to not change our strategy, but take action so that we remain within bands. So that's good. Okay, no, if I can get any more questions from folk at the station. No. What I liked was the other thing, Saskia, debt's going up as we have anticipated. That's the key thing. It's under control. Okay. I'll move from chair. We'll see the report in a second. Thank you, Tracy. Motion, all those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. And we are 5 minutes before 10:30. Is there? No man is online by now.
We can do this next page.
Yep. What is the? The New Zealand. Yeah. Let's do. So we're going to jump over. I think I've got that correct, haven't I? Have I got that correct?
That's the next one.
Oh.
Yeah. One more to go. Yeah.
Look, that's how I finished my meeting yesterday an hour earlier. So I jumped the page. It's only one page. You're right, but it's only one page. Sorry. In your hands.
Thank you very much. I have split this report out into two. the internal audit program I thought was useful as a separate paper, and we will have David Seif join us very shortly. So this paper here just really focuses on the external audit program through our annual reports and long-term plan. The actions outstanding, which is pleasing to see in the time that they have come down. Probably a thing of note for this committee today is we're yet to receive the management letter for last year's annual report. We haven't chased Audit New Zealand on that, given the work we're doing with them on the long-term plan at the moment. But when the timing's right, we will chase that.
Yes. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the pressure you guys are under. But disappointed we haven't got it from them, to be honest. But it's, I'll express that, but leave it there.
And the director is just recently back from a long period of leave, so she'll be playing catch up. I think John Taylor's just back this week, so hopefully.
Sunday night, to be specific, because we had to be on deck at 8 in the morning. Let's rush it. There we go. Any questions over this? Well done. I see the completed sign there, which is actually really important, and progress being made, which is wonderful. Do I have a mover and a second? Will you receive this report, please? Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, is carried. Audio. There are some in this section, like setting them up to date.
All the things want to carry on.
Just carry on. Well, that's the chairs and members report. If I always take as one. I don't know if I've got anything to say. Look, I mean, I tend to use this really as just an observation of what's happening around the country, given I get the benefit of seeing around the country. I've already mentioned pre-meeting, I think for governors, the pressure will come on our financial planning and rates going forward. And it's going to be the competence area for leaders going forward. If I'm not referring to the elections coming up, Tamar won't stretch the imagination, but I think that pressure and expectation from a community which is perhaps more conservative now will move us much more strongly that way. May well have a lesser progressive view of what local government is. I think the other thing which you guys are probably monitoring, albeit I understand, you've gone down your own, you're moving down your own track around Three Waters, is some of the developments in the Waikato are starting to crystallise, where there will be now 2 CCOs across the region, one being the main city block with Waikato District, and the balance going into their own CCO. I raised this because actually I was quite intrigued to talk with some of my obligations up there, that actually the sort of more rural based one sounds almost like an old catchment board in a good sense, or sorry, an old regional council, very much defined around how we manage our water systems, not just water and wastewater, EV relationships, etc. So there's a lot of good development, and there's nothing wrong, by the way, of the Hamilton Waikato one either. It's got its good strengths as well. In fact, they talk about the fact that really they're probably both doing this with a view that when the time is right, they'll join. So it's actually really interesting that there are starting to be some runs on the board, if I can put it that way, Tamar, further north. Whether they're helpful for us in the battle right at the moment, Julie, you may have a comment on that, but it's just to reflect that some of these are starting to get a wee bit closer to ground. So that's not too bad. But that's all I've got. Members, you got anything else you guys would like to add or even raise? Yes, Tana.
Just 2 comments that I wanted to add in that, and that is that the risk register now comes before council as a kind of standalone document report, which is really great, and we're getting some good conversations happening around the council table about that.
Right.
And the second that you might be pleased to hear, Bruce, is that currently the Fab4 working title, we're trying to come up with a better name, are the only group in the South Island working together in that water space, which is attracting quite a lot of enthusiasm from the Department of Internal Affairs. And the meeting that we had yesterday went really well. We'll provide an update to council about that in the coming week or so.
Hopefully they'll give you strong support. Just remind me the Fab4, you,
Waitaki and Kluka.
Sorry, you say board. Yeah, I thought. Honestly, I mean, it's a personal opinion, but there's I fear, I put the need, I wouldn't be quoted on this one, but I'm not public, but I will say, I fear for those that think they'll do this by themselves. And that's the majority of rural local government, so, I am worried about that. So Tamo, I mean, it's implicit support that you folk are doing something that's more than just yourself, which makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that is music to my ears, albeit it adds complications. Don't worry, I get it. I know, I've seen it, I've experienced it actually, you know, joining two's easy, three becomes troublesome, four, not troublesome, I would, becomes a challenge, four is a bigger challenge, so well done. Well done, that's superb.
One's on toast territory, is it four?
You got what, 50 kids?
Yeah, it is, Sarah, but I don't, you know, it's, there's got to be something better at the end of this for the ratepayer, essentially, I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
I said it's an article of faith rather than, necessarily a challenge. Okay, well, on that basis, I think I should move from the chair. We received the chairs and members' comments. Unless it's inside, but didn't Sally, Sarah, anything else, Tracy, and Grace? No? No, I'll move from the chair that we received those comments. Is there any, second. Emma, thank you. Second, the two that made the comments. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, it's carried. Is our man near yet?
He is.
He is. Okay, David, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, David, loud and clear, buddy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Good. So, David, we are fully constituted, and I've got a full committee in front of us here. Are we able to see, are we going to see David on the screen?
He is right there.
Oh, look at that there. Oh, okay.
And Sarah, that's his girl.
Oh, okay. Somebody else from your team there as well, David. Is that correct?
Yes, Sarah, my right-hand person with regards to all of this work that we do.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sarah. How are you? Sorry, I was looking to see. I could see you on the screen as well, rather than myself, which is not pleasant. Yeah, I wonder whether this is you to kick off, but then we will obviously move into inviting David and Sarah to address this. Thank you.
I will just say a few short words. First, I'd like to thank Deloitte for the piece of work that is in front of us. We ELT did review it, and we do think it's a really good proposed program. So it's clear from the paper that we originally, when we had looked at the program, there was a whole lot of stuff happening. We were reviewing our risk register, and when the original program came to ELT, we were just like, oh, let's just push pause. So we re-engaged with Deloitte. There were a series of interviews with the senior staff. So you see that the proposal in front of you, does reflect some of the key challenges that have been talked about at this committee. So we're proposing in the 25-26 financial year is there's an operational finance review and capital expenditure review. We have historically not been that flash on spending all our CapEx, so to do a deep dive into that. 26-27, focus on fraud, then contract management review. That is an area that we've identified that immediate work program to develop some really clear processes and policies around that. And then into 27-28 is an flex area talent management review and business continuity as well. And pending budget, a procurement process review. That was the last health and safety and procurement were the last internal audits that have been done. So very brief opening. I'll throw it over to you, David, for remarks from you before we open it for questions.
Yeah, sure. And we'll keep them pretty brief because the value in these sessions is all about the discussion and the Q&A. So just some real brief remarks from me to set the scene, and then Sarah will go into a bit of detail on what we did and how we did it. Look, I think it's just really important to acknowledge the context you're in terms of, as an organisation, you've gone through an awful lot of change. The sector's going through an awful lot of change. And so it's timely to be doing this. New CE, new ARC chair, local water done well, RMA reform, the list goes on and on and on. And so that's why it's really timely to be doing this refresh. And we do think in the conversations we've landed on the right engagements to be doing. But obviously that's down to Audit and Risk Committee to make the final call on. The one additional bit of context I'd add before handing over to Sarah is I spend about 3/4 of my time running internal audit programs, including for 4 other councils across the country. I spend the rest of my time with more of a fraud advisory or fraud investigation hat on, and it's safe to say that we are pretty busy doing investigations at the moment, and that's just a signal of where we are in the economic cycle. Definitely more need, not greed, is what we're seeing in terms of, you know, people are battling and maybe making decisions that they wouldn't normally make. So I do think that's useful context from the perspective of the specific fraud engagements we've got planned for year 2, but also just having that lens across everything that we're doing. We've got an awful lot of investigations going on at the moment with procurement procedures, contract management procedures, CapEx programs. So just having that as in the back of our mind as we're developing the terms and reference and scopes of work for everything that we do, I think would be useful. That's all I wanted to say. I'll hand over to Sarah and then we will open for questions.
Nice, thank you. So to develop the plan, we held interviews with members of the executive with a focus on understanding the risks that were front of mind for them. And we also reviewed the risk register, which was updated at the end of last year, strategy documents and other planning documentation. The key themes from the interviews were, is the council effectively delivering against the long-term plan? And that came through very strongly, which linked to the capital expenditure review proposed for year 1. Council resilience for future came forward, as well as another strong theme linking to the business continuity work proposed. And then front of mind as well was also related to 3 waters, so uncertainty there. We haven't put that into the plan just because I understand, you know, management have got a plan and a proposed way forward with that, and it didn't really link very well to internal audit work. So then Saskia, yes, thank you for summarising the year 1 proposed audits. Did anyone have any questions opening to the floor?
Thank you. Appreciate that, Sarah. So look, sorry, I was thinking you might be saying, well, it's no worries. We can certainly deal with that. So there's year 1, but do you also want questions on year 2 and year 3 as well, Sarah?
Yes, if there are any, yes.
Oh, okay, right, good. So look, thank you for those introductory words. So we have a plan in front of us, and I appreciate, Saskia, that you have revived this because it was, as David said, timely. So folks, if you've got questions, we already had some discussions this morning, and we will about risk. Does this meet the sense? So let's remember, with internal audit, David and Sarah are going to come in and fossick around in a good positive sense and give us strong feedback, which will come to this committee. Are these the sorts, you know, and if you think about our risks, what are our significant risks? Really, the assurance that we would get from David and Sarah are that the controls and processes that we have in place in these areas are working. So the question is, are these the areas that make sense? I think that's the real question.
My view would be yes.
Yes, please.
And that the priority of our yearly work program is also appropriate.
Yeah.
So I think that probably highlights, and the fact that a lot of that has come from discussions with the team, highlights that I feel what governance has been talking about over the last few months as well.
So Peter, having put this in a strong sort of, you know, committee need response, obviously it's not very ELT, this would meet your needs as well as
Absolutely, absolutely. It was great, but the discussions were quite wide ranging as well to get to the nub of some of the issues.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in just some of the comments made in relation to your ongoing investigation. Maybe investigation is not the correct word, but that's with territorial authorities, that's with local government. You've encountered these particular issues you alluded to?
Yeah, it's across the board, public sector and private sector, but those issues around third parties, procurement, contract management, certainly we've seen a big uptick in that.
Yeah, no, look, this is very timely because it will help us take actions and make decisions we need to make, but from an informed basis.
And And we acknowledge that we've done bits and pieces of reasonably ad hoc work in the past, and having something more formal, more formalised is a really good thing. And it's down to us to demonstrate the value that this sort of program can bring to the organisation. And we feel potentially there's a bit of an education piece in that it's not an old school internal audit approach where we're the policeman with the big stick that's going to come and dance on your grave if we find one invoice out of 25 that's not been signed off and point the finger and go, oh my God. It's about us trying to help the organisation do things better and become more successful and deliver more successfully on what's set out in the long-term plan. And I think one of those engagements in year 3 is a really interesting one, because you would not normally consider an internal audit function to be looking at your talent management procedures, but we've done 2 or 3 really interesting engagements with other clients over the past couple of years looking at that. And there's not going to be lots of detailed sample testing and systems and controls work, but it's a more kind of advisory piece of work where we're going, well, this is how you could be doing things better, or this is how you could be doing things differently. And that's where we can bring some value, because we can bring in Yvette, who sits around the corner from me, who's an organisation psychologist that leads our human resource practice, and bring you that sense of what good looks like elsewhere and what others are doing. And kind of I see that as our role to demonstrate the value that we can bring, such that the program potentially does expand, because you do see, well, I get every dollar is really important, but if we can demonstrate the value that we're bringing, then that's potentially coming back to that point that Saskia made about year 3 budget allowing. If we successfully demonstrate that, then maybe we can do 3 engagements in year 3.
That's great. Yes, Tracy.
Just a question, and this may be for you, Peter, I'm not sure where this is going to land. How do you see this process tying in with, and I can't remember the name, the council,
Council Mark?
Yeah, Council Mark.
Well, Council Mark's happening in that sort of July, August, September timeframe. But, potentially, the report that comes out of that might be of interest for the team to have a look at, and that might help guide some of their thinking as well.
And if there is, just to add, something that comes from that organisational review that is identified as an area of risk concern that we haven't picked up, there is the opportunity to go back and talk to Deloitte about whether or not we, reshape the program and bring that back for the committee. So I can see that could be informative. This, even though it's a 3-year program, it's not saying if the world changes that it's set in stone. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
David, I always love a diagram, and probably it's the consultant who loves your one on page 185, the idea of critical areas, the creation of value and protection, and then continuous improvement. Love it. Superb. One of the things I just wanted to question, not that it matters because it's a year's difference. Would you do procurement first before contract management, or contract management before procurement, or does it not matter? And perhaps why contract? Perhaps you can guess. I'm thinking I'll do procurement first. Is there a reason we do contract management first?
I can answer that.
Oh, I can answer that? Okay, sorry.
Yes, so it was within the last 2 years, we did a procurement audit and made significant changes to our procurement policy that Amelia's been working on. So we thought, and it was raised definitely by David and his team in the interviews, that we thought was probably just too soon. Let's embed that one more.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, convinced, that's fine. No, that's good. It's good to have that.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else folk would like to say? David, I think we're good. I think really the question is, let's crack on. I think it's what I'm hearing, Tamar, from words. Peter, thank you that you have engaged in this. This is just such a critical part of the total work of the committee, let alone your ELT. So to have it going is great, and I'm glad that we've made the financial arrangements for that. So the recommendation is that we obviously receive the report, we note the proposed program, and we recommend to council they approve the 3-year internal audit program. We'll move in a second. Tracy, thank you, Sally. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, it's carried. Thank you, Dave and Sarah, they're gone.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Sorry, just appeared off my screen. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank
We
you.
look forward to the ongoing
likewise.
engagement as you get on to the work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Bye.
Rightio. So we've done do we have a break? Where are we going for time, guys?
We're pretty good.
We'll break the 11. I don't, doesn't matter. I'm happy to keep going. I'm conscious you guys have got a meeting this afternoon as well, which is of substance. So I'm up to item 8, which is the status reports. So Wayne, anything you need to lead us on in terms of this, please?
I don't think so. There are, I don't think there's anything in particular there.
Okay, any questions from? And if we just look at our next meeting, the 7th March. June. Yeah, so we're having our March meeting.
Oh.
Okay, no, don't worry, buddy. It's cool. It's cool. That's all good. Well, there won't be anything really about the long. Well, just a question, Mark. I thought it was hopefully it was helpful that the risk committee did look at the draft annual plan, sorry, LTP sent out. Are you going to want us to do a similar work before you adopt the final LTP system?
That's a very good question. We didn't in 2021, but I think it might be prudent, even if it is that item only meeting. Paul, have you got any?
No, I think it's.
Yeah.
I think a lot of discussion
Yeah.
we have around the financial sustainability and strategy, even if we had a focus in the lens from that perspective, it just may be helpful prior to adoption by council.
So that would probably likely be mid-June. We need to go back and just
Yeah,
adjust.
no, I'll leave it to you
So
guys to work through with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the sort of thing that if there was to be a subject only and it was only for now, we can do it by way of Zoom rather than necessarily having to create a full. I suppose it is still a full meeting, but you don't want that. Are we allowed to have Zoom meetings these days?
Yeah.
We are? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't cheer for Zoom. I don't know what the story is. Okay, so that's cool. Annual report, obviously in June, we better have the arrangements for the annual audit by then. It's a bit late. I wonder, Paul, are you responsible, Saskia, for the arrangements for the audit?
Ultimately, but Paul and I were together on that, so
Yeah.
we definitely will make sure that.
Look, I wonder, we need to get this one cracking. Can I be blunt? I know they're doing the audit now of the LTP, but sure as eggs, that annual report's going to come up like a rocket straight after.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about the full bells and whistles, because they're going to focus on asset valuations and depreciation and yada, 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 yada. I don't have trouble with that. I just want to know that we've got arrangements in place for when we're going to do it. We're ready, they're ready, etc. That's really the key thing that would come from that. That can be dealt with by way of memo. In fact, I would be happy just to receive an email, bearing in mind that we're not going to meet until June, in which case, we'll have to formally receive a letter. But I just don't want to wait till June to know that everything is running. I know Chantal, there's still a little bit she's trying to do the audit as well, but that's the year that we have all got our certainty to. Okay, so look, the rest then follows through. Sorry, the other thing that will come in June, I suppose. Sorry, I wanted to raise this as well, is yes, we don't have the management report from last year. I think I want to say in a slightly noisy sense, Saskia, I hope there's nothing important on that letter. We get that letter in June, it suddenly says, you have these necessary recommendations. I'll be pretty unhappy, because actually if they're necessary, why have we waited 12 months to hear about it? So I think it would be good to raise with Chantal. Again, happy for it to be informal, but if there are matters they really think from last year we need to improve, we better hear about it fast rather than later. I'm sorry, I'm sounding a bit bulky and I don't quite mean it that way. All I'm trying to reflect here is, if they think we should be doing something, we, you know, if we get the letter in June, we won't have had a chance. to do it.
Yeah.
So no, a standard recommendation, for instance, Paul, is that we have a register of contract rates for being able to revalue assets. You know, and they're going to hold us to that because, quite frankly, most councils have been hit around the ears about that. You haven't heard about that yet, have you?
No.
You haven't received that. I mean, they might have talked to you informally, but it's those sorts of things that all of a sudden you find in June and actually we're balancing. So,
Yeah, basically, we're not going to be able to implement any of those.
No. That's right.
Following the audit, which
That's right.
means we're effectively going to end up
Yeah.
with 2 lots in one
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
Trying.
So I mean, I'm only one, what I'm really trying to do here is let's find the informal way now, given timing, and it's, look, it is what it is. And I do want them to focus for your benefit on the audit of the long-term plan. But surely somebody there can, like, I'm going to say the 5 minutes, it might take them a couple of hours, whatever it is, to send us an email and say, well, look, nothing super critical, we'll get this thing finalised, or actually, guys, there are 2 or 3 things that are really important you should know about. We deal with that by way of email. We can pick it up. I can talk on the phone to you guys and I can clear it out. Okay, that's cool. So Wayne, sorry, that's got us find that probably the key thing there then is just how we do or don't fit in around the long-term, the adoption of the final long-term plan after you guys have consulted. Okay, well, I'm going to move from the chair that we know this report. Second, please. Thank you, Tamer. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against? Carried. That gets us the date of the next meeting, 6th of June. There we go. That may be too early, or it might be about the right time, but again, I'll leave it in your hands.
We could do that in 2 ways, could move that meeting to like later.
Later.
And then,
Yeah.
and then get it all in one go, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a preference.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we'll do that.
Later in June, did you say?
Yeah, then,
Well, I think it's looking probably mid-June, so probably a week later is what I'm thinking.
I'll be away.
Oh, you'll be away? Oh, Tracy. Oh, I thought no, it's his holiday. Okay, no worries. Okay, can we move to item 10, which is the resolution to exclude the public? We have a number of matters there, and I consider there a good reason to go into PX for. I'm going to move that we do so. Do I have a second? Thank you, Tamer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favour, please say aye. Those against, it's carried. Right. I'm going to suggest we have a short break for 5